Now, the Deputy President William Ruto has been a man under siege, the second in command holding on to what is left of the bromance with President Uhuru Kenyatta. Tonight on Pundits Night, we discuss matters Jubilee, and who else to discuss it with than Jubilee Party Deputy Secretary General Joshua Kutuny. You can join the conversation on Twitter at TV47KE, as well as my personal hashtag, my personal Twitter handle rather, at Musa Salah, or at the end. And of course, Mheshimiwa, glad to have you on board here on Pundits Night. Glad you could join us. How is your new job as the Deputy Secretary General?
First of all, Musa, thank you very much for this opportunity. And of course, again, I want to take this opportunity to continue thanking the party leader and the entire party leadership for showing confidence on me and bestowing me this opportunity to serve the party in this capacity. Yeah. And just briefly after taking the job, you made some comments in terms of the way the party is going to take in terms of disciplining some of the rebels within the party. And just allow me to quote you here. You said, "I am waiting for induction and to be updated and be informed on what the party has been planning against anyone who has been defying the president's orders." Could you say, we've seen some of the members of the Jubilee Party being sort of disciplined, quote unquote. Could you say these are targeted punishments, or rather do you expect some of the members within the Jubilee Party, of course we expect where there are more than two people, we of course expect people to disagree. Do you expect that these members could be or would be the puppets of the state? But before I answer that question, let us ask ourselves first of all, what is a political party? A political party is a vehicle that is used by politicians to form government.
Right.
And the political party has a constitution and it has a manifesto. So you join a political party because you believe in that cause of that political party. You believe that the manifesto of that political party meets your standards. And you read the party constitution before you become a member of that constitution. It is like any other organization. You cannot join this organization if you know the terms and condition doesn't apply. Right. Even on your phone, when you press some section, it will take you to terms and conditions. And then it will say accept or decline. So Jubilee is a party that formed government, yes. We have a clear manifesto. We have a clear agenda. And we have the party constitution. But what we have seen from some of our colleagues, and that is why perhaps maybe I am sitting in this position today, is that they have not measured to the expectation of the supporters. What we have seen is open defiance against the party leader. What we have seen is people negating their role to push the agenda of the political party and pursue their personal agenda. We have seen people who are talking at cross purpose with the party constitution, with the party manifesto. And remember, the Jubilee manifesto is, the government manifesto is Jubilee manifesto because it is the ruling party. So my sentiments arises from the discussion that is outside there by some of our party members. And you've seen what the president has done, the party leader has done, and the entire party leadership. You will not tell me that the action that they took was trying to push people out of the party. We saw people opposing the government agenda in the floor of the House. The two leadership of the House working at cross purpose with the government agenda. So the question has been, whom do you serve? Yes, we agree you are elected to serve the people, but through which framework? A political party, which you are also supposed to respect the decision of the political party.
Mheshimiwa, allow me to interrupt you at that point. You say the party is a vehicle to which these representatives were elected into office. Now, some within those disciplinary committees, when they appeared before the committees, they said that they no longer believe in the party because within their party manifesto, there are some of the things which they used to believe in are no longer taking place. For example, the meetings, the meetings within the higher offices within the Jubilee Party. How does that go when you say that it is a vehicle which the politicians should believe in regardless of whether they were elected or not.
I buy your idea that there are people who've shown frustrations that perhaps maybe the party is not meeting their expectation. But it is very simple in a democratic society. You don't go fight the party. What you do, you resign and you go vie on another political party that you believe on their ideologies. But what we have seen people is that they want to have their cake and eat it, which we are saying no. You cannot benefit from the influence of the party that is ruling today, and at the same time you are criticizing the party. And then I want to put it this way. Even if there are issues, we have internal mechanism to sort out our issues. But what we've seen from these people is outright criticism, open criticism, which means they were on their way out. And to confirm that they were on their way out, before they even moved out of the political party that brought them to government, they have formed another political party that is now competing with the party that they are using it in the National Assembly, in the Senate, or even in the executive. And that is why we are saying that is not democracy. That is abuse of democracy. So we are telling them it is either you are with us or you are with the enemy. That is the boundary now.
Mheshimiwa, you say that if you no longer believe in the party, you should leave office, resign and go back to the electorate. There has been a few factions. The two main factions within the party so far is Kieleweki and of course Tanga Tanga. And a section of it is identifying itself with the United Democratic Alliance, UDM, which is of course allied to Deputy President William Ruto. And of course we've seen the deputy criticizing the government which he works for. Now, when you say you should resign, are you referring to the deputy president?
You know, first of all, you remember even Raila in the year 1992. He differed. I think it was then there was a party that Raila was. But along the way, he felt that the relationship between him and perhaps maybe the ideology of that party then was untenable. So what did he do? He had to resign and seek fresh mandate from the people. And we are telling the people who are in Jubilee, it doesn't matter position that you are holding. The position that you are holding it at the behest of the political party. You are holding it on behalf of our people, the people who elected you. So if you feel it doesn't matter, and the president himself, the party leader, clearly has said, if you are not comfortable serving the party and the government of the day, I think there is alternatives to that. And we are telling people that opportunities are many. It is unfair for these people to continue claiming that they are talking on behalf of the ruling party, yet you see they've formed another outfit here and they are opening offices outside there. So we are saying it is either they work for us and for the party, or they decide to be the opposition for the ruling coalition, for the ruling party. So we are not saying that we are chasing people. What we are saying in short is that already these people, they have left.
Now, Mheshimiwa, let me just pose that question again, just to be specific and to be clear. When you say you're not chasing people out, of course their beliefs are no longer within the party. It's no longer what they used to believe in. But as I said before, the deputy president has been criticizing the government, which he is part of. Now, should the deputy president resign?
The party, I think the party leader has clearly put it, that if you are not satisfied with how the government operates, I think the best way is for you to step aside. So, and it was the president was not only talking of one person, he was talking of the entire team that has been criticizing his government, and of course criticizing how the party has been operating. And I want to put it this way, my brother. You know, there is a way you can show leadership if you are occupying some positions. There are some positions that comes with a price. It comes with a lot of integrity. It comes with a lot of the way you carry yourself. You carry yourself with a lot of decorum. This is a party. This is someone who occupies a high-level position that deals with the decision-making of the political party. If there was an issue that he felt that he was uncomfortable, he should have either consulted the party leader or maybe the Secretary General or maybe the leadership. So I don't see his decision and the entire discussion around formation of political party inside Jubilee being fair. I think these people, they had an intention of killing Jubilee. And I want to put it clearly, Bwana Musa, to our listeners and to our supporters outside there, that we are not going to let Jubilee die. We are not going to allow people to crush Jubilee. We know it was well calculated that Jubilee must be eroded and clearly be buried before the 2022 election. Luckily enough, a few of us identified this problem in the year 2019. And that is why we had to form the outfit Kieleweke. Today we've been exonerated because we were saying there are people who don't mean well. And the same people we were accusing then, they have gone ahead and formed an outfit that is competing with Jubilee. What do you call that?
They're rebelling, of course.
Exactly. Now, so when we take action as a political party, are we being unfair? No.
We'll let our viewers decide that, Mheshimiwa. Yes. But there have been rumors, of course, going around that there's a possibility of an impeachment motion against the deputy being tabled before Parliament and being a member of Parliament. Do you think that is true or not?
You know, there've been discussions. There've been all the discussion outside there, which I want to put it clearly here, that perhaps maybe it is not in our agenda to move any impeachment because it is something so small. I think as a party we have a bigger agenda, and as a government we have a bigger agenda. We have the issue. Agenda? We have the bigger agenda about the Big Four and of course the BBI, which we feel like it is going to turn around the leadership of this country and even the framework of engagement going forward. So these are serious issues. So, but of course there were issues which were raised, which I said, as a person, perhaps maybe it is not a focus at the moment. However, as a party, we have our own internal mechanism which we are going to put in place. That whoever who is defying the directive of the party, I think we have a clear constitution of a political party, and we are going to weed out these people inside the political party. We want to have people who are going to push the agenda of our political party. Remember, we want to form coalitions with other like-minded parties as we move forward. Remember, we still have 18 months to deliver. We need people who are going to work with the president to ensure that the expectations of Kenyans are met. So we will not perhaps allow anybody that is going to interrupt these programs that we are rolling out.
When you say like the Jubilee Party is going to work with like-minded parties,
yes.
Are you referring to the Orange Democratic Movement?
Including many. Remember, Jubilee has a coalition agreement that has been signed with KANU, with Wiper, with all these people. Now you can clearly tell in the National Assembly. You can even tell clearly, even on the by-elections, that it is taking shape. There are some other regions where political Jubilee doesn't field candidates. And there are some other regions where ODM is not, and maybe ANC is not. Then we say this political party should take over. So this working arrangement is what we are trying to put in place. And it is not only good for political parties, but also it is good for Kenyans. And we are telling Kenyans, watch the space, you're going to see more of collaboration. Remember, there have been a genesis of these collaborations, and the genesis was the handshake, which brought peace into this country. So in that spirit, we are going to work with many political parties.
Now, Mheshimiwa, glad you brought out the point of the BBI and the handshake. When President Uhuru Kenyatta toured the central Kenya region, the Mount Kenya region rather, to cement his political backyard, he said, and I quote, "To people in Mount Kenya region, beware of people who are intent on bringing division. I urge you, wherever you're going, let's work together as a people." Now, there have been a few rumors here and there. A letter was written saying some of the MPs allied to the deputy president said they were not invited to that meeting. No, don't you think that by not inviting people not agreeing, who seem not to be agreeing with you, is sort of dividing the region?
First of all, I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone, because that was not our party's meeting. And at that time, I had not assumed office.
Right.
This is the second week now that I'm in the office.
Right.
So I'm not privy to any communication that was sent to a particular group and another letter that was not sent, an invitation that was not sent to another group. But I think I mentioned this during my opening remarks, that we are going to try personally. I'm going to try as much as possible to reach out even to the so-called rebels. I want to understand what has been ailing. I want to understand what are the challenges. Can we agree to disagree? Is there a way we can come together and reason and try to strike a balance between your interest and the party's interest? Because I believe that all Jubilee Party still have a future in the political arena of this country.
Right.
However, there was the letter that was written by one, the then former whip. You know, today I occupy this position.
Kangata.
The position that I've been given,
right.
Musa,
Right.
is a position that it expects me to behave in a particular manner. If there are issues, I'm not going to write a letter to the party leader. Already he has confidence in me. What am I going to do? I'm going to engage internal mechanism to pass the information. Every day I discuss with members, the so-called rebels. I've met around 15 of them, and I have information. And I'm relaying the same information to the party leadership. And I want to report clearly that the reception is very good from the party leader about the divergent opinion that we are collecting from our colleagues. And we are going to reduce the fight. You will see very soon. We are going to close the gap.
Right.
Remember, I had said some times back that there was a deliberate intention, and it was a move that was well calculated, choreographed politically to alienate the president from some leaders of a particular region, particularly Mount Kenya, so that someone can have a direct access to these people. The leaders of Mount Kenya know the president. But what we are saying is that we have identified that as a challenge, and we are going to pass this to the party leader so that it creates room for people to engage. Now, what did we see from our friend? He had not even stayed in the office for 4 months. Then you write a letter. One, it means that perhaps maybe there was no access. And if there was no access, perhaps maybe to the party leader. Were there no any other person that you could reach out? Were there no any other mechanism that you could use? Three, why don't you do it alone? Like now, when I've been given this position, I don't expect the party to start telling me what I'm supposed to do. I should identify those regions which don't have offices. I should identify regions which the party has been dormant. I should identify the region which the party still have a lot of support, but perhaps maybe the network needs to be activated. This is my responsibility. So I have a feeling that there are people who already made up their mind that we are not going to work perhaps with Uhuru Kenyatta and Jubilee for that case. And we are telling them, give us space. The new people who are going to come in, they are willing to push the agenda. And you're going to see the turnaround that we're going to put. We are going to push for registration of the new members. Two, we are going to push. And this is very clear. We are going to identify coordinators in every county. We are going to identify coordinators in every constituency who are going to take over the operation of the party. So then, if we have any communication that we want to make, it is going to be one touch, a press of a button, and the information will be everywhere.
Now, Mheshimiwa, you understand that some of the wrangles within the Jubilee Party, the rebels that, as you've called them, they disagree with the Jubilee Party, the ruling party, because they believe a promise was made to the Deputy President William Ruto, and President Uhuru Kenyatta said that, and I quote, "Some people have been saying I made a promise to them. No, I only have a promise and covenant with the people of Kenya." Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has been on record. He is on record saying that yangu kumi yako kumi, of course in reference to Deputy President William Ruto. What do you make of this?
I haven't, what the president has been categorical is early campaigns. Because immediately we were elected, some people started running the show and going for elections and turning around the mood of the country into an election mood. So the president requested, and I remember in State House, and sorry to put it this way, in a public arena, but perhaps maybe it is good for public consumption. The president, I remember in a meeting that we were in State House, he said, I am going to be the campaigner for my deputy president. Only if you give me room to deliver for Kenyans. So what the president has been fighting, he has been fighting a team that is already pushing for campaigns and perhaps maybe changing the leadership of this country. So the president recently said, ndio ilikuwa 10, lakini kwani nimemaliza yangu 10? So the president has not finished his term. But you are trying to run the show. And you remember what the president said at Bomas? He said, it is a race where we give out baton. But what I am seeing is that someone has already picked and is running the opposite direction, which means the president was honest, saying, had they paused for a minute, as they waited for a minute and give me time to deliver, then I was technically, or as per the party constitution, he was going to hand over. And I want to say, for the benefit of the public, if I was the deputy president, I want to put it this way, had the deputy president been patient until end of this, not end of this year, until August this year in Jubilee, 1 year to election, anybody who didn't like him or liked him, we were not going to have any other two-way other than to support him. Because remember, party leader is a deputy party leader. 2, I am so sure the party was not going to attract any other candidate basing on his aggressiveness and perhaps maybe networking. He will have been the only candidate for our political party. So I, member of Jubilee, I was going to be bounded by the decision of the party to support him. And even anybody else who did not like his candidature, it was going to be so. So I think it was an opportunity wasted by the deputy president to bolt out of Jubilee and to try to form another outfit. It's going to be very difficult. So I think in terms of political move, he goofed. If there was anybody who advised him, I would say that he was misled. Because it was only 1 year to wait for a few months, and the party will start the internal process of identifying a candidate. And NASA, the ODM the other day advertised. I am so sure Wiper will do the same next week or next month. ANC the same thing. Jubilee will be doing it in another 2 months. If the deputy president had only waited for a few months, he was automatically going to be our candidate.
Now, we are talking of will and ifs here, but obviously deputy president's ambition or aggressiveness rather has frustrated his boss, the president Uhuru Kenyatta. Now we've seen the president shifting towards ODM leader Raila Odinga, and of course forming a sort of an alliance with KANU chairman Gideon Moi. Now, are we possibly looking at a replacement, Deputy President William Ruto's replacement?
What the Constitution says is unless you are a member of a political party, unless, you know, I think that will be, as it stands now, at what point does the deputy president ceases to be a member of Jubilee? Then you start that discussion. So, Musa, that is something that is very weighty, that perhaps maybe I will not want to get involved into at this time.
Mheshimiwa, I'd like you to get me right. When I say the DP's replacement, I mean in terms of supporting him come next year.
Okay, now that one is totally different. Musa, that one is totally different. Supporting the deputy president next year, not supporting the deputy president next year. Remember, first of all, there was politics is interest. And an outcoming president is on self-preservation. So he will always make sure that when power, if possible, when I hand over power, I hand over power to someone, of course, who will push my agenda forward. And I think the president has been, of course, it is true that he's been facing a lot of frustration, even when pushing for the agenda in his own government, pushing agenda of BBI. And clearly, will you want to tell me as a politician, even I have not discussed with the president, that he's going to trust whoever who has been opposing this to push the agenda. I don't think if that will be possible unless a miracle happens. So you will see coalitions. You will see political rearrangements. You're going to see political geography moving. There will be a lot of things that are going to move as we move towards elections. Of course, you know, they've been also the team deputy president saying that they might have to work with other people. We are also seeing, we will see them also trying to reach out and build a coalition. Who knows? Maybe there will be fallout also in the team that is pushing the BBI towards, as we move towards election. You know, so I think there will be need for us, team handshake, team BBI, to make sure that we neatly put together our house as we move forward towards 2022 elections, and that will be immediately after BBI, because in politics anything can happen. But what I want to assure Kenyans and our supporters is that we are aware, yes, of a possibility of a fallout if a process is not managed well, like what has happened, what we are experiencing in Jubilee. We are also aware of people with intentions of trying to seize an opportunity and run away with it the last minute. We are aware. So, and we are not new in this game. We've been around for long, and we've seen coalitions being put together, coalitions being broken.
Now, as you've rightly put it, the president, of course, he's preserving his legacy. Of course, he's been asking the deputy to give him a chance to do that. And I'll just take you back. The president has been on record and is on record saying that he will not leave the government to thieves. What do you make of that? Who was he referring to? And of course, the president has been fighting corruption somehow.
You know, I don't serve in the executive. I serve in parliament. And the president has announced, he has pronounced himself severally, 1,000 times, that the government, in fact, the government, there are people who are stealing. The president pushed for a lot of agenda. Remember, even trying to push for lifestyle audit. People came out opposing it. There are people who there was a time the president was trying to push for empowerment of DCI, and some people criticized DCI openly. There are people who opposed even EACC when they were pushing for some cases. There were some people who opposed DPP and accused DPP. So what does it tell you? It tells you that actually there are people who survived and perpetuated corruption in Uhuru's government. And they know themselves. Today, if a statement related to theft of public money is put public there, the first people to criticize are known. And they know themselves. If you put something online, if today you run a story here about someone, you know, like so, and you know, there are people who are being investigated with by government agencies over some corruption. Those people, they will be the first people, before even mentioning their names, they will be criticizing that statement the following day. What does it tell you? That guilty are always afraid. And they know themselves. I
will not add much to that statement, but allow me to bring in the hustler versus dynasty narrative that is driven by the deputy president. Of course, the deputy president rather, has been driving the wheelbarrow narrative in support of the common mwananchi. And of course, the National Assembly National Security Committee, led by Kiamba Member of Parliament Paul Koinange, wants the National Cohesion and Integration Act amended to include class discrimination as a basis for incitement. What do you make of that, Mheshimiwa?
Remember, first of all, you know, I can understand where the deputy president was coming with his idea of hustler versus dynasty. You know, but then introducing now the wheelbarrow, of course, turned the whole thing. It made it very ugly, where people now felt like it was ridiculing even the people who are poor. And then two, it has reached a point where I feel that they are celebrating poverty. They want to cheer people who are poor. Because you see, first of all, you are telling people that, you know, wheelbarrow versus these other people. But when you go to those rallies, you know, you go with a lot of flamboyancy. You know, the entrance is grandiose. You know, the aura in those meetings, you can see a lot of resources being used. So it is a political ideology to hoodwink poor Kenyans. You want to associate with their challenges. But the question has been, the deputy president has been in government, and I put it very clear. You've been in government for all that, all those years. Is it today that you realize that they are dynasty and hustlers? Yet you've been the deputy president for 7 years. What have you been doing in the office? Remember, we had a manifesto of creating 1 million jobs every year. It should be telling us the jobs that we created is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the same people who frustrated manufacturers. You had the other day, it has been on the social media, that there was a very prominent entrepreneur who wanted to invest in this country. But there's some people who interfered and demanded money. How many opportunities of employment if that person had been given a free hand to invest in this country? So what we have seen is that there's been a clear interference. But then when you fail to deliver, then you go complain to the Mama Mboga, mtu wa mkokoteni. I think that is a hypocrisy of the highest order. Yet you've been occupying a position of influence for the last 7 years. I want to hear what has been your agenda in government to ensure that a farmer in Meru gets good prices for Miraa. I want to hear what have you done for the last 7 years to that farmer in Cherangani or in Wazingisho Kamagut to get good prices for their maize, and you've been in government. I want to hear the agenda that you've pushed for that farmer in Kericho to get good prices for his coffee. I want to hear from Fugaji, what agenda have you put in place for the last 7 years for him to get good prices for his cow? But then what have we experienced is complaint. Now we are being told that when I take over, I will do this. But what we know is that you had an opportunity. So there are two things, and this is an argument. I want to bleed with Kenyans. It has reached a point they must interrogate the leadership. Even the people of Cherangani constituency, I am calling them to interrogate my leadership for the last 4 years. And then vis-a-vis what I promised them. I want them to interrogate the governor for their county. I want them to interrogate the President of Republic of Kenya. I want them to interrogate the Jubilee government and say, when they took over, who was making promises? It is this man. Were those promises fulfilled? And let me tell you, Musa, something that even shocks me is the person who was making more promises is the one who is now creating more promises to Kenyans. So you are Mr. Promise. When are you going to fulfill these promises? So I think enough is enough. The Kenyans must wake up and rise to the occasion and hold their leaders accountable. Musibebe ufala.
Right, Mheshimiwa. But some would argue that the seat was a two-way seat, including the president and of course a joint presidency, of course, with the President Uhuru Kenyatta being the flag bearer and the deputy being, of course, the running mate. You've said that Jubilee's agenda was to create jobs, and of course we saw the promises being made. And of course, what if the deputy felt like the government is not making those? And of course, remember, there's so many youths who are jobless. And what if the wheelbarrow is the only way the deputy sort of can empower them to create self-employment for themselves?
You know, if he feels that the government that he has been serving, the government where he's been the deputy president, has not been living to the expectation of his agenda, what else will you do? Will you remain there? The best way is for you to resign and you go seek fresh mandate on another political party on some position that you can influence. And then two, you can leave, you can move and you check the government outside. After all, you have a platform, you have a name that you've created a niche of yourself. So you can push that agenda outside there. You don't have to use the infrastructure and the government apparatus that to push your own agenda. I would say that is selfish. And then two, who tells you that wheelbarrow? Yes, I will not say that there are Kenyans who earn a living through such. But then what do you do with someone who's gone to school, who is a graduate, who is in the streets here for the last 5 years? Will you say wheelbarrow? And then two, even for that person to make money, the person for the wheelbarrow to make money, you must empower the people at the higher gutter and the middle class
Right.
You must create employment for the middle so that they can continue with construction for these smaller people to continue pushing wheelbarrows.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
So if you are not empowering the middle class, creating more jobs for the graduates, lowering the issues of taxations, pushing government agenda that is friendly to the people, if you are not participating in that, I think then your agenda is for people to fail, so then you can use it for your own success.
Right. Now, Mheshimiwa, at some point the government took a detour from its main agenda, and of course we saw the unemployment rate is still high, so many youths unemployed, and of course the GDP has fallen even before COVID came to the country. Who should we blame, Mheshimiwa? Is it the president, is it the deputy, or is it the president and his deputy?
Of course, you know, it is up to Kenyans to interrogate and to pass judgment. But I've always said that kutenga na kutenga, tunatenga na kutenga is what has created all the crises that we have in this country. If they had stopped talking about kutenga and said this is what we want to do, I think we will be in another level. But I will say, but perhaps maybe it's somehow it's something that we collectively as a party, we need to take responsibility on some of the issues.
But Mheshimiwa, you'll agree with me when I say that even as Kenyans decide on that, who to blame, is it the president or the deputy? Remember, the deputy president does not have executive powers. The president can make those orders and they be followed, but Kenyans will only remember who was at the helm of the country.
Yes, that's another issue. That's another issue. That's another issue. Of course, Kenyans will remember the people who've been in leadership. But of course, you remember this is a pair, joint pair. But what we are seeing, the context of my discussion with you now is the context of a joint ticket and the formation of government by two people via a constitution that talks of a president and a deputy president. But what we are seeing is a deputy president who is trying to play smarter and have an exit strategy and want to leave the blame to the president. It doesn't work that way. It is either you perish together or you survive together. So there is no way you can hang on the same government that got you into government and try to criticize the same government. If there will be any failure by this government, it has to be bared by both. And if there will be any success, it should be collective. But what we are seeing is someone trying to run away and leave the president to try to sort out the mess. And he could be part of the people who created the mess. And he's trying to run away now.
Right. Mheshimiwa, away from the rift between the president and his deputy, let's now take a look at the handshake. And of course, when the president met some of the top leaders, including KANU chairman Gideon Moi at State House, of course, Gideon Moi read the statement, and that is alleged to have made a statement on the president's decision, but rather that was not taken well within the ODM party, which has sort of formed an alliance with Jubilee Party, the party that you serve. And of course, Senator James Orengo said, and I quote, "As ODM, we made a choice to support and work with the government, but we will only do so when they are on track, on the right track. If they keep on provoking us, then we are ready to go to the trenches for the sake of Kenyans." Now, of course, we are sort of foreseeing that the ODM party may go back to the streets. Is the handshake trembling?
It was a storm in a teacup, you know. It was just a small problem. It was, I won't say that it is something very serious.
Right.
You know, for me, I don't see that one as anything serious. It is just a thing problem in any association, in any coalition, in any political arrangement. So these are issues. Yes, we listen, and if there is any issue that ODM feels that it is not properly handled, I don't think that we are too rigid to say that we are not listening to them, and we are reaching out. I'm sure the team that is there is already working to ensure that any issue that they feel dissatisfied should be addressed. And I want to put it clearly this way, that is the spirit of engagement. For us, we will not, you know, when Orengo, I can imagine if some of the characters that were expelled from the party were still in Jubilee, if they were still in the party. With Orengo making that statement, they will have told Orengo leave. But you've not, the team that is there now in Jubilee is approachable. They are reaching out to Akina Orengo to try to ask if there is any problem. And then of course you raise the issue of ODM, the Gideon Moi reading the statement, and you know, maybe ODM or maybe ANC feeling uncomfortable. I want to ask you also the same, I want to put it this way. If Raila was reading the same question, will Gideon feel uncomfortable? And if Kalonzo or Musalia for that case were reading, anyway, who else do you know? So I think it was just part. In any political formation, you don't, if you are working as a team, it should not really matter who is reading a statement. Either way, it was only a statement. So I thought people should not read too much. I've seen people saying that there is a new coalition. Maybe there is this group versus this group, so and so is being isolated. You know, in as we move towards 2022, there is a lot of political sensitivity. And the people even who are trying to push that narrative are people who are not, who are no longer in Jubilee and they are not in handshake. These are now remnants, people who are outside there. These are the people when there is a big a small problem, they are the first people online saying that Baba metemwa. If there is a small problem with Gideon, Gideon amefinywa. If there is a small problem with Wetangula, amefanywa hivi. But the matter, the truth of the matter is that we are working as a team. And there is a bigger agenda. And trust me, this team that you see the president putting together, there is likelihood that it will form the next government. Yes.
And just to take you back, Mheshimiwa, Deputy President William Ruto has maintained that Jubilee's development agenda was derailed by ODM leader Raila Odinga, and that the handshake between the president and the Odinga that birthed the handshake has sort of halted government operations. Is that true?
It is not true. That is hypocrisy. I think this is just a language of a crying baby, because when what derailed actually Jubilee agenda was the streets, the running battles between Raila supporters and the government. That is what derailed the Jubilee supporters agenda. It has nothing to do with the issues going on between the president and Raila and when the president had an handshake, I thought the deputy president would see that one as an opportunity to push the government agenda, because one, there is smooth process at the National Assembly when it comes to bills and government agenda. And then two, we were going to reduce, you heard that we were using 50 million for tear gas every month. Now that is money that will have been used or earmarked for maybe free primary education or maybe even fighting issues of...
But Mheshimiwa, you've said 50 million on tear gas, but remember we are losing about 2 billion every day on corruption, in President Uhuru Kenyatta's own words.
That is something that the president has indicated. And it is very sad that such amount of money. And the president has, I will say clearly, I'm not speaking on behalf of the president, but you can see Uhuru for the last 4 years trying to push this agenda of anti-corruption. But he's been also facing backlash from the government, from the same team that he's been working with. So I will see the president who has been really trying and making a lot of effort, including lifestyle audit, including all these issues, putting a lot of effort in terms of giving capacity to investigative agencies. But what we've seen is internal interference by the people who've been perpetuating corruption. I can only wish if people who formed government with Uhuru had just put aside some of these issues they've been pursuing and focus on service delivery on this country. This country could be totally different. I can imagine riding or perhaps maybe campaigning in 2022 on a platform of delivery to Kenyans, saying this is the water that we've provided. These are the roads that we've provided in Nairobi. These are the street lights that we have done this is the number of roads that we've done in Nairobi to reduce the traffic, like what the president is doing. But I'm happy that despite all the onslaught against the president has not stopped in service delivery.
Right.
What we have seen is people amplifying the negative side of a small matter. But they are not talking about the express highway that the president is trying to push. We are not seeing these people talking about the dams anymore. Have you heard them talking even about Karimenu Dam? Because they are no longer part of the deal. You've heard them, you don't hear them talk about the lines of power that is being connected or the household that is connected with power because they are no longer getting the handouts that they used or perhaps the kickbacks that they used to get. They are no longer talking about the infrastructure that is being done in parts of Meru or Isiolo or maybe in Garissa because they will only celebrate and praise and talk of an agenda where they are making money. But they will not talk of an agenda that doesn't benefit them directly.
So Mheshimiwa, you're saying we'd rather lose 50 million shillings compared to 2 billion shillings, of course, but will not dwell in that so much. The energy regulator, ERPA, has introduced or reviewed last month's fuel prices. And of course, diesel is retailing at 122 shillings. Being a member of parliament, of course, you have the powers to introduce bills and, of course, legislate rather. What have you done in your capacity and other members of parliament to sort of salvage the situation?
I want to say clearly I'm the deputy party Secretary General of a ruling coalition, Nini Party. But on this one, I don't agree. I will really beg, I will really, seek indulgence of the leadership of this country to again check on that. I think this is, Kenyans are already hurt, the economy is everybody is facing, as in even for us whom we are on salary, we've been pushed to the wall. I can only imagine ordinary Kenyans. So this additional, the cost of fuel, increasing the cost of fuel, of course, is going to increase the cost of production. The cost of production increases the cost of consumable goods, which means the cost of everything else goes higher. The cost of transport, it is going to be passed to the consumer. So the Kenyans are going to be hit more by the cost of this. So I think it is a discussion. I hope it is something that is going to be adjusted within a very shortest time possible.
Of course, Mheshimiwa, you've said you've been pressed by the new rates. If a Mheshimiwa can say that, of course, you can think of the common mwananchi with, of course, the same fuel retailing at 58 shillings in Ethiopia and, of course, 98 shillings in Tanzania. Why 122? And, of course, you're a member of parliament. Who can legislate? Of course, you say you do not agree with the ruling party. So what you still take your mileage allowances, of course, within parliament. What are you doing as a parliament to sort of save the common mwananchi?
We've been, parliament is sitting on Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? Yes. And I think this is something that we are going to put on the floor of the House. Seriously, we're going to discuss. It's a collective responsibility of all members of parliament, notwithstanding any political affiliation and ideology, at least to discuss this and make sure that the government understands well. Yes.
Well, I hope we do, or the common mwananchi gets reprieve from next week's parliament as they discuss, of course, these new rates. What are your final thoughts, Mheshimiwa, as you conclude?
First of all, I want to appeal. I want to start from where we are in terms of economy. That I want to appeal to the ministry. I want to appeal to Treasury. That Kenyans are suffering. Kenyans are suffering and putting more burden to Kenyans. I think it is going to kill them. So I think Treasury, it is a wake-up call to Treasury to try to source other income, or perhaps maybe to live with a little available other than burdening Kenyans with the cost of taxations. The more taxes that are going to put in place, Kenyans are going to suffer more. Two, I think also the government needs to focus also on youth agenda. We've seen university students going without food. The other day that my former university, I wish if I had a way of helping the students in more university. because they were saying that they were sleeping with no food, and I can only, it's not only Moi, the entire, because help has not released around 16 billion. So I think urgently we need the Treasury to release the money so that these students can continue with their studies. And I think this is something that we will take up when the Parliament resumes. 3 is that agenda, BBI, it's not for Raila, neither for Uhuru. It is good for this country. When you have when you're pushing for an agenda of putting more money to the people, when you're pushing for an agenda where you're going to ensure that a small person in the village feels the cost, the benefit of the taxes that is paid, the taxes benefits him. I think that is important. When you're pushing an agenda where power is going to be diluted so that we don't have a de facto or an authoritarian president or a spoiled system of government like the presidential system that we have, I think it is an agenda that everybody should give a consideration. When we're talking of an agenda of bringing Kenyans together, I think that is important. When we are talking of a country that is losing 2 billion, and in the constitution that is going to, that in BBI, we are saying the cases of these corruption cases should take at least 6 months, not more than 1 year. What other ways do we need to sort out these issues of corruption in the country? I want to appeal to all Kenyans to be very vigilant of the politicians who are pushing for ideologies that can easily cause emotions and that easily they can cause class war in the society. I think in this country we should be pushing, understand the framework of our politics, understand the principles of our politics. If it is regionalism, let us see it in a positive way. We should not criticize it. And then we should not push for an ideology that person can feel because Musa, you leave this office and perhaps maybe you have your VIT, then it is wrong for you to have it, and for him to be the way he is, it is wrong also because of you having that VIT. I think these are issues that we need to run away from, and we push for a different